Hello friends, welcome to Jinesh IS Academy editorial analysis. In this editorial, we do 5 things. Firstly, we will link the editorial to the UPSC CSE mains syllabus. Secondly, we will understand the key points from the editorial. Thirdly, we will understand the key concepts from the examination point of view. Fourthly, we have modeled the MCQs as per the UPSC prelims examination. And fifthly, we have modeled mains questions as per UPSC mains syllabus. So let's begin today's editorial analysis. Friends, this editorial has been taken from Business Line newspaper dated May 19, 2020. It covers UPSC CSE syllabus GS paper 3 under the broad headlines of government policies and interventions, mobilization of resources. First of all, the key points. Here we have a theme of the whole editorial analysis, and that is underwhelming effort. The 5 tranches of Atmanirbhar Bharat do not adequately address the deep crisis at hand. Friends, here we have a concept, and that is what is the economic package, because Atmanirbhar Bharat is a stimulus package. So now very first, stimulus package is a package of tax rebates and incentives used by the governments of various countries to stimulate economy and save their country from a financial crisis. Here we have a allocation of Atmanirbhar Bharat in rupees crore, all these figures, tranche 1, tranche 2, tranche 3, tranche 4 and 5, RBI measures, and total allocation is all about 20,97,053 crore. Here in this Atmanirbhar Bharat package, government tried to target 3 sectors of economy. The very first is the primary sector. The measures or reform to amend ECA, APMC, contract farming, etc., announced for the agricultural and allied sectors are particularly transformative. Second, it targets the secondary sector of the economy. Given the importance of MSMEs for Indian economy, the rupees 3 lakh crore collateral free loan facility for MSMEs under the package will help this finance starved sector and thereby provide a kickstart to the dismal state of the economy. And the third point is the tertiary sector of the economy. The government has adopted a balanced approach in addressing concern across sectors. For example, PM E-Vidya program. It is for multi-mode access to digital online education, provides a uniform learning platform for the whole nation. So friends, here very first we understand the theme of the editorial, and that is all about the stimulus package or a financial package known as or named as Atmanirbhar Bharat. Here we can see certain infographics about this package. The latest one is the coal, then minerals, defense, civil aviation, power sector, space and atomic energy. In terms of coal, commercial mining on a revenue sharing basis to be introduced, companies in the private sector will be allowed to carry out explorations. In terms of minerals, composite exploration, cum mining, cum production regime for minerals to be announced. 500 mining blocks will be auctioned. So it is very good news. In terms of defense, a list of weapons, platforms for ban on import will be notified, and FDI limit in manufacturing under automatic route to be raised to 74%. These points are very important for the sake of CSE prelims examination. In civil aviation, restriction on utilization of the airspace will be eased, so that flying becomes efficient. Now only 60% of the airspace is freely available. So, it is a very welcome step. Then power sector. Power department utilize distribution companies in union territories to be privatized. It will in line with the tariff policy which is to be announced. In terms of space, privatization to be introduced, planetary exploration, outer space travel to be open to the private sector. So, it is a very adventurous move because it allows space travel, and we always have a knowledge that ISRO again developed its own commercial wing known as Antariksh for the sake of to earn money for its own expedition, for its future expedition we can say. In terms of atomic energy, research reactors in public private partnership mode to be set up for the production of medical isotopes. So, it is a very good step. And in final dose, the fifth tranche of economic package, we already discussed what is economic package, under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan was announced. It cater health, public spending to be increased, more health and wellness centers, infectious disease hospitals and public health labs to be set up in all districts. It is very good step in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. In terms of disinvestment, public sector firms in non-strategic sectors to be privatized. No more than 4 public sector undertakings to remain in strategic sector to be notified very soon. And in terms of states, borrowing ceiling raised from 6.4 lakh crore, that is 3% of their GDP, to rupees 10.69 lakh crore. It is a very big announcement and a very big relief to all state governments. Only a quarter of this hike is unconditional, rest are linked to reforms in specified areas. So, it is a very counterproductive terms and condition. I think every state will like it, and it is a very good step in terms of federalism, a development federalism. In terms of unemployment, Mahatma Gandhi Narega scheme allocation hiked by rupees 40,000 crore to fund 300 crore person days, aimed at giving migrants who have returned home an income option. So, they guys will no more unemployed. In terms of industry, fresh insolvency proceedings suspended for a year, eligible loan size to be high from rupees 1 lakh to rupees 1 crore. So, we can say COVID-19 related debt not to trigger defaults, firms can list abroad directly, but every good action will have certain criticism. So, the experts from the industry arena criticize the whole stimulus package, and what they are saying it is considered to be less of a stimulus and a more of industrial reform which could have been announced at any time. It has been also observed that the only direct budgetary cost in this tranche was the rupees 800 crore to be provided as a raised 30% viability gap. Again I am repeating, it is important point, rupees 8100 crore to be provided as a raised 30% viability gap funding to boost private investment in social sector infrastructure. The fourth tranche covered sectors of strategic importance but these policies will be rolled out over a 3 to 6 month period, and any implication for supporting or reviving the economy as it comes out of lockdown is totally missing. Next, we have a question for mains from this editorial analysis, and that question is all about any financial stimulus package will fail to reflect the trickle down effect unless it is backed by reforms in other sectors. Discuss the statement in context of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Friends, we can say recently the government announced an economic stimulus package of rupees 20 lakh crore and big bang systematic reforms under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Right, in this way we can initiate our answer, and following points we will add in our answer, which are: the intended objective of this plan is twofold. First, interim measures such as liquidity infusion and direct cash transfers for the poor will work as shock absorber for those in acute stress. The second, long term reform in growth critical sectors to make them globally competitive and attractive. Together, these steps may revive the economic activity impacted by COVID-19 pandemic and create new opportunities for growth in sectors like agriculture, micro, small and medium enterprises, in short we can say MSMEs, power sector, coal sector and mining, defense and aviation. We again say with the we are using these headings regarding to associated challenges in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, issue related to liquidity, lack of demand, lack of backward and forward linkages, the great fiscal deficit, difficulty in mobilizing finances, and what steps to be taken. The very first is enhancing demand, mobilizing finances and holistic reforms is needed, not a one sided reform which contribute only to the industrial reform as we discussed earlier. So, here a holistic reform is needed. So, these are the points we can add in the answer, and at least try to write down answer in 250 words at home. Again we have a key points. We discussed so far the underwhelming efforts and the pros and cons of Atmanirbhar Bharat, its various tranches, its allocation, etc. Right. Now, the key points of the editorial. With the Indian economy staring at the prospect of sharp negative growth, it is quite odd that the centre should unveil an economic package that on closer perusal turns out to be a mere 1% of GDP, a mere you can say the 1% of GDP and not 10% as claimed by it. Recently, the State Bank of India has in its EcoRep newsletter pegged the actual size of the fiscal package at 2 lakh crore or 1% of the GDP. Here I will explain the EcoRep newsletter of SBI. According to State Bank of India's research report known as EcoRep, the report estimates the revenue losses for the centre after taking into account gains from an excise duty hike and dearness allowances freeze at around rupees 6.53 lakh crore, and that is all about 3.27% of GDP. However, the government has announced additional borrowing of rupees 4.20 lakh crore for financial year 2021. Friends, this would imply net uncovered revenue slippage of rupees 2.33 lakh crore and that is 1.17% of GDP. Further, the amount of stimulus has a fiscal impact of rupees 2.03 lakh crore, that is 1.01% of GDP. Thus, a total of rupees 4.36 lakh crore, again I am emphasizing, thus a total of rupees 4.36 lakh crore is still the uncovered loss of center even after the additional borrowing by the center. Interestingly, this is nearly equivalent to budgeted capital expenditure of the center. So, that is the whole about the EcoRep newsletter report of State Bank of India. It is not alone in arriving at such estimates. The center has totted up a figure of rupees 20 lakh crore by egregiously lumping together fiscal and monetary measures. Here the key points, it is a kind of an concept. What are the fiscal and monetary measures, right? We can quote certain points. Both monetary and fiscal policy are macroeconomic tools used to manage or stimulate the economy, and here the Indian government did the same. Secondly, monetary policy addresses interest rates and the supply of money in circulation, and it is generally managed by central bank. In case of India, it is Reserve Bank of India, RBI. Third, fiscal policy addresses taxation and government spending, and it is generally determined by government legislation. And fourthly, monetary policy and fiscal policy together have great influence over a nation's economy, its businesses and its consumers. So, we can say the center has totted up a figure of rupees 20 lakh crore by egregiously lumping together fiscal and monetary measures. We already discussed the differences between the fiscal measures and monetary measures, the latter being in the nature of credit guarantees and liquidity infusions into banks and other financial sector institutions rather than the economy per se. Here again we have infographics and few points. Very first the points. The notable areas of direct fiscal stimulus as explained by the newsletter are free rations and other relief measures under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, and the fund allocated for it is rupees 73,000 crore and 43,000 crore for Mahatma Gandhi Narega, rupees 12,000 crore for fisheries, that is the primary sector of economy we already discussed while discussing the theme of the editorial, and rupees 3,500 crore for food to migrants, right friends. So, here we can say as part of the lockdown, why government put so much emphasis on these 2 or 3 projects like PM Garib Kalyan Yojana and Manrega? Because as part of the lockdown, to stem the spread of deadly virus, the government has stopped public transport, airlines and construction work, bringing to a halt motion economic activities and leaving millions of workers in the informal economy without a livelihood. The central government's package comes a week after Kerala first announced rupees 20,000 crore support for its people. Many states including Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Punjab, Telangana and Rajasthan followed the thing. Here Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana reflects each person who is covered under the National Food Security Act would get an additional 5 kg wheat or rice for free. In addition to the 5 kg of subsidized food grains already provided through the public distribution system, 1 kg of pulse a household would also be provided for free according to regional preferences, because regional preferences are different in our India. This is expected to benefit about 80 crore people. Thus, we have a very massive amount of allocation in Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, that is all about rupees 73,000 crore people, and we discuss the features of this thing, right. For workers, wages are being hiked under the Mahatma Gandhi Narega scheme from rupees 182 to rupees 202 a day. Friends, I am again repeating the point, and we are discussing the allocation, why there is too much expansion in Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi Narega, and Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Because in Mahatma Gandhi Narega scheme, wages are being hiked from rupees 182 to rupees 202 a day. The center is directing the state to use the rupees 31,000 crore held by building and other construction workers welfare boards to provide support to the 3.5 crore registered workers. Secondly, the states can also use the money available under district mineral funds for medical screening, testing and treatment. Further, we have the serialized press statements by the finance minister do not match up to the alarming crisis of lack of migrants desperately fleeing on foot to their homes, with many dying on the way. That is very unfortunate situation. The package, by relying overwhelmingly on credit infusion to boost the economy, has failed to recognize that investment will pick up only when people across income segments have money to spend. It is a very true and very important aspect of this Atmanirbhar Abhiyan. For that, they need to see an economy picking up and generating income for all, both immediately and over time. So, these are very crucial point to discuss. More or like it is a constructive criticism, we can say, all about the relief tranches by the government. And in this chart, we can see main features of economic relief package announced by the finance minister: insurance cover of 50 lakh per person of for doctors and medical workers fighting COVID-19. We can say them angels, right. For angels, we have a 50 lakh per person insurance cover. That is all about risk management. And 80 crore poor people will receive 5 kg wheat or rice and 1 kg of preferred pulses for free every month for the next 3 months. Free grains can be availed of in 2 installments. This statement is all about the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, and the allocated fund is rupees 73,000 crore. Second, increase in Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi Narega, we already discussed, and 20.4 crore Jan Dhan women account holders to get rupees 500 per month for next 3 months. It will be a welcome steps for the poor in masse. Then ex gratia of rupees 1,000 to 3 crore senior citizens, disabled and widows among the poor. Government to front load rupees 2,000 to 8.7 crore farmers in the first week of April under the existing Pradhan Mantri Kisan Yojana. It is a very welcome step. And friends, be remember this scheme Pradhan Mantri Kisan Yojana might be we have a question in CSE prelims 2020 and other various UPSC kind of exams like NDA, CDS and assistant commandant. Further, for household 8.3 crore below the poverty line families to receive free cylinders for the next 3 months. It is a very good step. Wage earners below rupees 50,000 per month in businesses having less than 100 workers to receive 24% of their monthly wages into their PF accounts for the next 3 months. Next, the center had directed the state governments to use the construction workers welfare fund to give relief to 3.5 crore registered workers. So, this booster dose have a direct impact, or it is a kind of glucose for the workers or poor in masse. Next, we have again certain key points. The Mahatma Gandhi Narega infusion of rupees, this 40,000 crore may help in alleviating the distress of migrants when they return to their villages, but it does not measure up to the magnitude of the crisis. Above all, there is nothing specific for high job creating sectors such as retail and hospitality, besides the general promise of cheap credit. The center has been overcautious in opening its purse strings at a time when all economies have set aside their fiscal targets. It should borrow more and spend more, using future growth to repay the debts taken at low interest rates. It is a welcome step. This passage is very important, and this passage is related to this image. Here you can show the PM Modi, and he is just pulling the Indian rupee, might be it is against the dollar. You can see if we closely monitor the image, there may not be a case for expanding the fiscal stimulus to 10% of the GDP as the western economies have done. Since the rupee is not a comparably strong currency, but a genuine fiscal infusion of rupees 8 to 10 lakh crore, with an orientation towards cash transfers, infrastructure spending, including social infrastructure, which has been neglected from the very beginning, and one time settlement of industry wages is what the economy needs today. Friends, here we used one word which we darken in red, that is, since the rupee is not a comparably strong currency. Here, that is the point. Here, since the rupee is not a comparably strong currency, I will explain it. What happens if rupee falls against dollar? Now, the weakening rupee has made crude oil, fertilizers, medicines and iron ore, which India imports in large quantities, costlier. For instance, since India depends on imports for a large part of crude oil it consumes, a weak rupee will influence petrol and diesel prices. That is the point. Again we have a question, what happens when rupee decreases? A falling rupee versus the dollar increases the cost of imports and increases export revenues in rupee terms. Friends, since our imports are more than exports, there is potential for an increase in the trade deficit. It adds to inflationary pressure. Currency weaknesses is likely to result in inflationary pressure as well. So, in short we can say, if this all stimulus packages leads to weakening of our currency, and with this weakening of our currency we have a inflation pressure in the near future. So, be ready to fight with this inflation, right. While the center has reiterated its reform commitment with respect to privatizing airports and mining, such steps must await the return of normalcy. Here too it appears keen to flag its fiscal prudence amidst falling tax revenues, even as fighting depression rather than debt has emerged as a paramount concern globally. We have a question for CSE Prelims 2020. We organized this question from today's editorial analysis, and it is all about: consider the following statement regarding the stimulus package known as Atmanirbhar, this Atmanirbhar Bharat. Very first statement is: person who is covered under the National Food Security Act would get an additional 5 kg wheat or rice for free, in addition to the 5 kg of subsidized food grain already provided through the public distribution system. It is true, but it is all about for 3 months. Next, wages are being hiked under the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act scheme from rupees 180 to rupees 202 a day. It is a very right step and again a welcome step. Third, the center is directing the states to use the rupees 31,000 crore held by building and other construction workers welfare boards to provide support to the 3.5 crore registered workers. Now, the how many statements are true in that particular question? All these 3 statements are true. Thank you very much, friends.